WhiskyJason here, whiskey from the viewpoint of an American over here in Germany, often tasting rare and exotic whiskeys. Today I have from Bladnoch the Dragon series. Ooh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have the field, the spirit, the cask, the aging, and the decision. I'll talk about each and every one of them. I'll taste each and every one of them. I'll evaluate them all and tell you if it's worthwhile. I paid basically 550 euros for the set. So 110 euros for each of these. Over in Germany, they are almost exclusively sold as a set. In the UK, I see you can buy them individually. There's only 2,000 of these each, so 10,000 bottles in total. The one thing that I must admit I do dislike the most is no age statement. No mention whatsoever of any of the ages of these. Yes, even the aging is not age stated, which I think is crappy, but that's okay. All right, so we have in each and every one of these a nice little booklet, and in this booklet you have a nice overview of them. Now, the first thing I need to mention is what is the Dragon series. So it's a collection of 5 single malt whiskeys that celebrate, according to Bladnoch, the captivating unpredictability of the whiskey making craft. Because the Dragon series basically is based on a dragon curve. A dragon curve is any member of a family of a semi-similar fractal curve which can be approximated by recursive methods such as the Linden-Meyer systems. Whew. I'm reading from Wikipedia. The dragon curve is probably most common thought of as the shape that is generated from repeatedly folding a strip of paper in half, although there are other curves that are called dragon curves that are generated differently. Now, the highway dragon, also known as the Harter highway dragon, or the Jurassic Park dragon, was first investigated by NASA physicists John Highway and Bruce Banks together with William Hunter. And it was described by Martin Gardner in the Scientific American column Mathematic Games in 1967. And the highway dragon can be constructed from a baseline segment by repeatedly replacing each segment by 2 segments with a right angle and with a rotation of 45 degrees, alternately to the right and to the left. So I'll demonstrate. All right, that was a lot of dumb, like, what, Jason? Why, Jason? How, Jason? All right, so, and we have, first of all, the field. You do notice that they get darker in color and the boxes up, and they have also more ABV each time we move up as well. So we are going to start off with here the first thing called the field. So I'll pull this out. Now, to be very, very honest, these bottles are so 2015. Look at the size of the glass bottom here. All right, so this was, we have an L238146, 123 at 1141, whatever that means. So we have a very light whiskey. Now, on the box and on the back of each box, you have here a dragon curve. This doesn't look like a real good dragon curve, but I'll show you what happens in a moment. And each of those points actually demonstrate a certain, I'm going to call the word iteration, a decision that has to be made here. So we have to think about for example, the silos. Do we keep it in one silo? Do we mix it with other fields? Very important for terroir. We have to think about how many the years. Just like wine, we have vintage. We also have with barley, we have good years and not so good years. We have here the word variety. A golden promise is a varietal, and so on and so on. We have here the soil it's grown at. If you ever paid any attention to what Waterford is doing, even Bruichladdich is what they're doing there, you'll know the terroir soil is so important. Also here, the kiln. Now the kiln is only important because we need to have malted barley. We need to heat it up. And so they put, actually on the field, they put peat. It's not the peat in the field, but it's actually, is it going to be a peated whiskey? We put peat in the kiln, or is it non-peated? I would have called this instead of the field the grain, but that's just me. All right, germination, the climate, the peat levels, the okay, Jason, get my the field, the farmer, the seasons, and also the maltster. And those are all very important factors considering the grain that is used, the barley that is used for a single malt. So let's do this. Let's pour this in here. So we have here iteration number 1. So the first repetition, the first iteration is the field, and it's exclusively matured in refilled bourbon casks. Now, I hope this was made at Bladnoch. It does say single malt, and it does say Bladnoch lowland single malt Scotch whiskey. This is a very young product, but for me, we have Bladnoch now, which could have produced this. It's been more than 3 years, and Bladnoch before. So where that old setup, the old stills, the old mash tun, the old fermentation tanks and so on, washbacks, everything was gutted out of the distillery, and so there's that Bladnoch old and the Bladnoch new. And this is probably going to be, I'm fairly certain this is Bladnoch new. Bladnoch. A distillery I've never visited. I have to go there one day. Wow, this is so young, it's almost metallic. It's very new make-ish. New make-ic. Like new make. I'm supposed to have here roasted barley with freshly cut grass are the tasting notes that are officially given here. So let's go here to number 1, the field. We have toasted barley with floral cut grass on the palate. 1 second. Cheers. I'm supposed to have citrus apple, creamy shortbread, and the finish should be refreshing and sweet. I've had Glenmorangie 10 that tastes better than this. It's not bad, but if I think that I paid 110 euros for this bottle, I would be so frustrated. This tastes like a 45 euro bottle, if even that. So the exact words here from Bladnoch website says, harvested annually from the farmer field before undergoing the process of malting. The resulted malted barley gives us the main raw material for our distillery. Before this raw material even arrives at the distillery, we have already encountered variety and variability from nature, our environment, and the malting process itself, which is very, very good. Iteration 1 is the origin of all our whiskey. Barley is harvested annually from the farmer's field. Now, I must agree. So, a product that has, for example, wheat in it is not a single malt, or corn. And so Mark Rene and Waterford believe terroir, the origin of the grain, is the most important factor. I don't. I think it's important. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it's the most important. Haha. So I saved that. I got the... that's my question at the end. What is the most important of these factors? Is it really the field the most important? No. I'm going to rank them at the end. I'll tell you my personal opinion. All right, so that's the first one. All right, so I'm going to try to do, I didn't do this in my German video, but I think I'm going to do in my English video here, that I put them up there. They should be okay, I hope. Number 2, we are now going to move over to the so-called spirit. Now, we have the field, we have the cask, we have the aging, we have the decision, and the spirit. For me, this is the distillation process that is being evaluated here. All right, so I hate pouring from these. The bottle's so far away from the neck, but that's, once again, maybe just me. I'm not a big fan of the bottles from Bladnoch. All right, so iteration number 2 is going to be the spirit. And what we have here is a product. Oh, it doesn't even say the alcohol level here. Wow. So number 2 is going to be 48.3%. And we have the following. Oh, I can't read. So this goes over here for a second. We have the following points for the spirit. We have the water that is used, important. The yeast that is used, very important. The wort, the time of the year. So I know that some distilleries, for example, in the summer have the spirit tastes different than the winter. That has to do to the temperature. Balancing, all right. So we need to balance maybe even the we have the heart, we have the okay, we have the heart, we have the cuts. So I forgot the English words for all of that. Don't worry. So the cut points, the mash man, the fermentation, the wash, the gravity, how much alcohol is actually in there, the timing, the still man. Interesting, you have the wash man for the wash still, and you have the spirit man for the spirit still. We have the speeds. I think Glengoyne prides themselves, or used to pride themselves on being the slowest distilling speeds there. We have the stills themselves, Glenmorangie with the longest necks, giraffes, and so on. The mash bill. I read that. I was like, no, we always have 100% barley, but you can use different types of malted barley. Is it pale ale? Is it Munich malt? Is it chocolate malt? And so on. We can do that as well. All right, so we have the wort, the yeast. All those things are important for that process. I think that is more important than the barley that is used, but that is just my expression. My opinion, I'm sorry. Now, the official taste, let's read here. Iteration 2 is the first distillery production stage. The malted barley from the field is taken through the 3 key processes of mashing, fermentation, and distillation. The potential variables and unpredictability further multiply through these steps with gravities, temperatures, and cut points, to name a few, all requiring a deep understanding from a mash and stillman, ensuring we have a consistent new make spirit. This lowland floral and fruity distillery character is ready to advance to be filled into our oak cask for maturation. So the nose should be pear drops. That's a very typical British candy with fresh cut grass. Don't get the grass. On the palate, malted cereal, get that, with boiled sweets. Why would you boil sweets? Sweets means candy. Why would you boil them? Oh. And a hint of cracked pepper. Interesting. This is the hottest of them all. All right, so that heat of that youth really comes through. And the finish should be refreshing yet warm. The casks used here are going to be wow, it's hot. It's first fill and refill bourbon. So we have refill and we have first fill. To be very, very honest, 1 for me is darker than 2, which makes no sense. The first fill should impart more wood, but maybe this number 1 is older than this number 2. We don't know. No age statement. Come on, people. That's what we want. We want transparency. All right. I like 1 more than I do 2. All right. So I like the refill bourbon a tick better than I do the first fill and the refill, just because of the heat towards the end there. You can dissipate the heat a little bit with a little bit of water, but still, to think I paid 220 euros for these 2 bottles. No. Frustration. All right, so now we have what I think is one of the, if not the most important processes. Look at the color comparison. Yay. We now have number 3, we have the cask. Some people say 40%. Some people say 80%. I say 100% of all the natural color is given from the cask, and that's the most important thing. So we have here, if you look at our dragon thing here, it looks a little bit more complex. So we have the following points here. We have location. Where do we age? I've had bourbon aged in the UK, and it's not the same as if it had been aged in America. We have the tree. Buffalo Trace did a wonderful comparison of the different trees. Even Glendalough did the same thing in Ireland. We have the cooper, who makes the casks. Someone said just recently, the Bourbon Pursuit said if you go to ICS, International Stave, ISC, sorry, International Stave Company in Lebanon, Kentucky, and see how they make the staves, it's almost like an assembly line. If you go to Kelvin Cooperage, that was just sold to someone else now, you'll see they're still doing the old-fashioned hard way. I like that. So Kelvin Cooperage, if you want good old-fashioned cask, go there. If you can get in the door. No, at the moment, not. So fire, the temperature of the fire for the char level as well as the toasting level. Yes, it's fire is not fire. You have different temperatures, and that really affects how the wood reacts, especially with the toasting and with the char level. The country you're located in, the location again. Also the cask, you have French oak, you have Spanish oak, you have Hungarian oak, we have German oak. Those are all European oak, but yet they're all different. The seasoning of the casks, very important. The oak species, is it Quercus alba, is it Quercus roboa, is it Quercus petrea? The stone oak, is it then Mitsunara, Japanese oak? There's all these different species of oak that you can use, which is really Chinkapin, which is Mongolia, Muesli, irgendwas war. Something was with the Chinkapin, which was really interesting there. So this is first fill American oak bourbon casks. Yay. And then at the end it says here, and it's very interesting, it says first fill Spanish oak sherry casks. So you can have Spanish sherry oak casks, which are different than Spanish oak sherry casks. What do I mean? As soon as you put Spanish in front of oak, the oak has to come from Spain. If you say Spanish sherry, the sherry has to come from Spain, and all sherry comes from Spain, and they all use oak. So this is European oak. So if the wording is correct, so I'm not really sure they did that right, but who knows. So we're now at number 3, so we're now up to 49.9% ABV. And here it says for number 3, we have the iteration number 3 in the series showcase another primary source of variability within the parallel process of cask coopering. Let me pour a little bit, then I can continue to read. The coopering of our casks has to consider a multitude of variables ranging from oak species and the growth environment through to the technical challenges of toasting, charring, and seasoning, all of which can have a significant butterfly effect on our final whiskey if the natural chaos within it is not crafted by the cooper. Now, according to what I know, Bladnoch does not have a cooper. They do not even have a cooperage. So they're buying their casks used. So they're totally at the mercy of the casks they can get from, in this case, First Fill Bourbon, America. The cooperage there, West Virginia cooperage, Kelvin cooperage, International Stave cooperage, and so on. They made them for that. Someone else decided. Not they decided, someone else decided. And the same thing if you're working with a bodega or a toneria in Spain that makes the barrels for the Spanish, they decided, not the distillery themselves. Now, if you're big enough like Glenmorangie, if you're big enough like Macallan, you can buy your own forest in America and then commission a cooperage to make barrels. You can lease the barrels to a bourbon manufacturer and then take your own barrels back. That's the way to go if you have enough money and enough resources to do that. All right, so on the nose, I get a very artificial sherry moment. They say here I should be getting cinnamon sticks, root ginger, and a background of citrus notes. Synthetic. It's a little bit of an artificial plastic moment going on here. Do not like the nose. On the palate, though, for me, these first fill Spanish oak sherry casks are seasoned casks. Okay, it tastes much better than it smells. I do get the raisins. It says here raisins with a toffee, yes. Popcorn, no. Sweetness and a hint of root ginger spice. On the finish, it should be thick, long, warm. I enjoy this whiskey. I do not like smelling it, but I thoroughly enjoy the flavor profile that is given here. Is it worth 110 euros? No. It's with a 49.9%, very, very nice. It's got some depth, got some complexity, got some, yeah, it's got a nice finish. And also sometimes color is important. So the darker, the lightest, so light a tad bit more, and so far one of the darkest here. I like. All right, so we're moving over to number 4. We now have the aging. So pull out the bottle. This is a video that's going to be a lot longer than I wanted to originally be, but that's the case in this one. So we have here the aging. Once again, I'll try to show you the dragon curve here. It's getting more complex, as you can see. And what happens is here we have the dunnage. So a dunnage warehouse, about 7,000 barrels max, 3 high, clay floor, older system, costs more money, has a larger footprint on the ground, but some people say it's the best way to do it. We can also go here to racked. So America, we have a rick house where we rack the whiskeys, the barrels in there, very good. And something more and more of the newer warehouses are palletized. So we put them on a pallet, put them with a forklift, and don't have to roll them around. Actually much better for the hewn workers there, but maybe not the best flavor. If it's on the side, there's much more wood contact. If it's like this, it never touches the head of the barrel unless you take it out and roll it. So those are things you have to consider. The stow, how do you stow them? How long, where do you stow them? The seasons. In Kentucky, they say it has to have, at least with the aging of the staves, at least one summer, and sometimes it has to have 2 summers because those seasons are so important. So we have here time, we have an angel share, very important. We have humidity, the temperature, the oxidation, and then we have the additive maturation as well as the subtractive maturation. All those factors are important for the aging process. So iteration 4 focuses on the longest, the most complex, and the least understood process of maturation. I'm not sure if it's misunderstood or not understood yet, but okay. Casks filled with new make spirit undertake years and decades of interaction with the environment. Was this decades? That would be great. Tell me. I want an age statement. I at least want to know what type of spirit in here, the youngest. Excuse me. It undertakes years and decades of interaction with the environment, building on unpredictable structures for the whiskey to come. Those who lay the casks down pass them to a future generation. I'm not sure if any of these are from a former generation, but maybe. Who will be the custodians of the results. With a 20-year-old, 30-year-old whiskey, yes. The seasonal cycling of temperatures and humidity, warehouse type, location, combining with the angels to give us significant complexity to manage. Casks have been sought after from the darkest, coldest locations in Bladnoch's warehousing to amplify these effects in the iteration number 4. Wow, the darkest, coldest locations of the warehouses. The furthest away from the windows, apparently. All right, very, very good. So here we have red wine hogshead from where? We don't know. Is it Spain? Is it Portugal? Is it Italy? Is it Australia? Is it Chile? Is it Argentina? Is it a Napa Valley? Who knows? All right, so I think that's terrible. Tell me where the cask came from. Red wine hogsheads. Do we really use hogsheads with wine? We use over here in Europe a barrique. A barrique is 225 liters. A hogshead is 250. Are we now seasoning hogsheads? I don't know. And we have first fill bourbon casks. Interesting, we have here first fill American oak bourbon casks. Here we just have first fill bourbon casks, as if bourbon was not aged in oak. That is, if bourbon was not aged in American oak. Who knows? Here we have first fill and refill bourbon, and here we only have refill bourbon. Here it was important to say first fill American oak bourbon casks. I actually like this. We have an alcohol ABV of number 4 of the aging of 51.5%. And I could be getting a little bit of polished oak on the nose with honey with an earth undertone. I'm not really sure about that. I get a lot of berries. Cheers. Mm. Mm. I like this. I get blackberries. I think this is one of the better integrations of wine casks that I've had for a while. The 51.55% is nice. Would I pay 110 for this? No. Would I pay 75? Maybe. Would I be willing to pay 55? Yes. Give it to me for the half. I'd buy it all day long. Give it to me. What do we have here? So we have here 1915. Here we have, so we have 114, 1915, 117, 0830, 112, 1403, 123 from 1140. Okay, interesting. Trying to figure out what these numbers actually mean. So L23.8, L23.8, 165, 163, 128, 158, and here 164. Huh. Okay, I have no idea. But I do know that I like this. This is the best one so far. Very nicely done. Well done, Bladnoch. All right, last but not least, we have the so-called decision. So with the decision, we are now at a mind-blowing 53.1%. Nowhere does it say cask strength anywhere. And we have two different type of casks as well here. We have our ex-Tokaji wine casks, and we have ex-Canasta, we know that maybe from Tokaji, cream sherry casks. In what proportion? No idea. Was it 20-80? Was it 50-50? Who knows? And at the end, the dragon curve looks like this. All right, for the decision, the following points are therefore important from Bladnoch. So the cask blending. If it's not a single cask, you're going to blend casks together. That is important. Do I take bourbon? Do I take sherry? Do I take red wine? Do I take refill? That's important as soon as you have more than one cask. So then we have here the nurture. We need to nurture the whiskey. Sounds like something for aging and not for the decision. We have the nose, important. We have the vocabulary. What words are we going to use to describe this whiskey? We have choices. What's a different word for decision? We have to make choices. We have the stock. Now, I'm working with a distillery in Germany, and we'd like to do something. I said, we just don't have the stocks for it. You have to have deep stocks to be able to do something that you'd like to do sometimes. We have protect. We need to protect the environment as well as our stocks. We have the palate as well as the nose. That makes sense. And then we have to think about the strength. Is it going to be 45? Is it going to be 51? Is it going to be 53? That's very, very important. And then what I thought was very, very interesting, they have the word racking. Yes, racking means finishing in a different cask, re-racking. And you have the word finishing. And then you have the word here, not just with vocabulary, you have the word stories. As soon as you make a decision for a whiskey, you're going to have a story for that whiskey. Stories sell whiskey more than, in my experience, more than the liquid itself, unfortunately. So the second bottle is sold by the liquid. The first bottle is often sold by the story. So know your stories here. So this is number 5 and the last one. If I look at that, so number 4 is definitely of these three the lightest. And if I go real quick, I'm going to actually say number 3 is a tad darker than number 5, but just nominal. All right, so we have here iteration 5 focuses on whiskey making in the sample room, where the decisions are made for our final product. I like this nose. All variability and unpredictability is considered at the bench. protecting tomorrow's interests while balancing today's needs for a consistent and sustainable experience for everyone, taking the full complexity encountered to date and simplifying it in these final steps with innovation, opportunities, and the skill to build flexibly maturing stock, the variability and unpredictability of everything in the process curve to this point should not be noticed by anyone if we make the right decisions. Yes, so if you're going for a standard core range, you do batch, and you should not have batch maturations. Almost everyone has batch maturation. This is a good picture. I like this. I'm very, very, very hardly able to see here, but you can see me and hear me. I have a nice sherry moment. I have here a nice wine moment. They don't seem to really be fighting, but the Tokaji wine does win over the Canasta sherry casks. Here it says Spanish Canasta sherry casks. So the nose could be crushed red grapes and coffee creams. I don't get coffee in this. I don't like coffee, but I do like this. All right, cheers. As I mentioned, 53.1%. Nice. Oh, yeah. The red wine absolutely takes over, but that sherry, the Canasta, it's a certain brand of sherry there, supplements. There's a little bit of fighting going on, but the Canasta says, okay, I'm in a supporter role. Tokaji Casks, you take over, you take the lead. I'm going to support you. It says coffee creams complemented by the sweet and tangy flavors of apricots with a hint of nutmeg that adds depth and complexity, and the thick and long-lasting with a satisfying sweetness that lingers on the tongue. I still think I like the aging with the red wine, Hogshead, and the first fill bourbon cask a little bit more. So I'm going to go 4, 5, 3, 1, 2. That would be my ranking of these, all right? So now that's the taste. I think, and I'm going to talk about my importance of these different iterations in the whiskey making process. I think the casks are the most important thing. I think the wood is actually what makes the whiskey. All right, so number 1 is for me the casks. Number 2 is going to be probably the decision. What casks do I put together? How long have I let them, I know that is aging, but how long have I let them sit? What flavor profile am I going for? So I think this decision of, is it going to be a single cask, is it going to be a small batch, is it going to mix of these or that or whatever? So the cask is most important, the decision is number 2. Number 3 is the aging. How long you've let it, where did you age it, how did you age it? And then number 4 is going to be the distillation process. And last but not least is actually the barley itself, the field. Now, Mark Rene and Waterford will totally disagree. But if we're really, really honest with ourselves, the casks, if I use a sherry cask, or if I use a red wine cask, or a rum cask, or a bourbon cask, that's going to influence the whiskey the most. But you say, Jason, what about if I use peated or unpeated product? I'm only talking about unpeated. As soon as you put the peat into the mix, which has nothing to do with the grain, which has nothing to do with the field, that changes the whole ballpark, all right? I would still say the casks are maybe primarily 1, but then I can go maybe even here 1, yeah? And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all right? So, but only because the peat is a product which is not natural to the whiskey making process. I know I've just eliminated a few of my subscribers. I don't care. All right, peat is an additional addition to a flavor that does not naturally occur with whiskey. All right, so if you put malted barley, you put yeast, you put water, you put it in the cask, It's optional. It doesn't necessarily belong there. Now, I know you love it. Someone once did a ranking of all the Islay distilleries. I've done a wonderful video about the history of the Islay distilleries with an interactive type of map where you see where they pop up and how old they've been, who created them, and so on. I was on Islay last year. It was great. But I'm not a peat head, and so therefore putting peat to the side, that would be my ranking. What is yours? What would you say is the importance of which of these 5 different, I'm going to use the word of Bladnoch here, iterations, process decision making for a whiskey and what it is? Now, would I rebuy these? Definitely not. Is the 550 euros thrown out the window for me? Not. I did a bottle share. So this is gone. People in Germany wanted this. It's great. Another whiskey tuber is going to do a blind tasting. You'll have a very similar experience where these 3 are unique and nice. These 2 are young and not so good. But just thinking that in order to buy these 3, I have to pay another 220 euros. No, not worth the money. Is this a collector's item? I have no idea. There's 2,000 of these sets. Is this something people in 3, 5, 10 years now in the future are going to go, oh, I want the Dragon series. That was so great. I'm going to pay 4 times the price that originally it was. So I'm going to pay 2,000 euros for the 4 or 5 bottles. Or I'm going to pay even 1,000 euros, double the price. I really don't think so. I've been wrong many, many times with a lot of my investment advice, but I really don't think this is something that you're going to stash away someplace and make a lot of money with by having it. But who knows? Maybe that's what they're going for. What I would have loved to have seen is someplace on the bottles or on the boxes, natural color. No, not there. Non-chilled filtered is there, but not natural color, unfortunately. And the last thing that I would like to once again mention is give me more information about the age of the spirit at Bladnoch. Because we have probably here new whiskey from the new built distillery in the building of Bladnoch. And here we might have, but I might be wrong again, we might have a distillate from the old distillery that has been basically gutted and replaced with new equipment, new kit. All right, so please answer the question, what would be your order here for the most important decisions when making whiskey? Is it the field? Is it the spirit? Is it the cask? Is it the aging? Or is it the decision-making process? Thank you very much for watching, liking, subscribing, and telling others about Whiskey Jason here in Germany. Bye-bye.